Let's talk about why your conversations suck. Now, I want to talk about two different analogies that will really help you shift your mindset and the way that you view conversation. But before we talk about all of that, why do we need to know how to make conversation? Now, I think most of us can relate to the fact that when we walk out of our houses or apartments and onto the street and we see people walking around, oftentimes their heads are down, their eyes are glued to their screen. When you take the subway, for instance, people are oftentimes not making conversation with each other. They're just looking down. We have all these different social media networks and platforms vying for our attention that it's extremely difficult to stay present in the physical world. And that's why I think it's important that we remember how to connect with physical human beings that are living and breathing. I think the art of conversation is something that, if we're not careful, is going to be lost in future generations. So, this is why I think it's so important that we're touching on this today. So, let's talk about these two analogies that I mentioned earlier. The first is the weighing scale analogy. Now, I want you to imagine an old fashioned weighing scale where you have these two items that are being balanced. And let's say they're perfectly balanced, as all things should be. The way this relates to conversation and making connections with people is that for 50% of the conversation, you want to contribute. You want to speak about your own experiences, give your own input, build upon what the other person is saying. Now, a lot of people overdo this to the extent where they're talking for the whole conversation. And that's when the weighing scale loses balance. So that's what should be 50% of your conversation, your own contribution. Now, the other 50% is listening, hearing what the other person has to say, engaging with them, humoring them. And the reason you want to balance these two things perfectly is because in excess, speaking for 100% of the conversation may leave some people viewing you as unaware or lacking social awareness. And from there, it's going to be really hard to get the other person involved again and for them to care and for you to build a relationship off of that conversation. Now, when it comes to listening 100%, some people may think, this is a great thing. And I think in certain contexts it is, but oftentimes this can leave people viewing you as having nothing to contribute. And I know it's kind of sad, but that's the way it is. So overall, contribute and speak 50% and then listen 50%. And for me, I think this is the golden ratio. Now, obviously, it's not going to be exactly 50% all the time, but having the idea of the weighing scale analogy at the back of my mind has always given me direction in conversation. The second analogy is the tree analogy. Now, this is something that one of my friends actually taught me. And this analogy, this mindset shift, will really help your conversations flow better, allow you to feel on the same page as the person you're speaking with, and to really feel that deeper human connection. And the way this works is that every time the person you're speaking to says something, everything they say is essentially the tree. And there are different branches of that tree that you can walk down and explore. So let's say I'm asking somebody the age-old question, how was your day? And they respond with, I had Chipotle for lunch. I ran 6 miles in the evening. It was a great day. Everything they just said is the tree itself, but there are two branches that you can explore. The first item was Chipotle, and there are so many questions you can ask from there, so many things you can explore. Is Chipotle your favorite Mexican cuisine? What is your favorite cuisine? What do you think of the recent controversies about Chipotle underserving their customers? That's only the first branch. The second branch, which is running, opens up even more topics you can explore. Is running your favorite form of exercise? How did you get into running? Are you training for any events? This whole conversation thing becomes so much easier once you begin to view conversation as this tree with branches to be explored.